And here we go. Blessed to be a part of your day. Recently, Idaho Public Television had a debate between Representative Paulette Jordan, Paulette not ready for primetime Jordan, and Lieutenant Governor Republican Brad Little. Now, as we've been discussing and covering the campaign, when it comes to local issues, we love to speak to you and hear what you have to say at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. There were many chances for the panel of roundtable from the vaunted, dignified, noble Idaho Press Club to ask some specific questions, and some of them did, some of them didn't. I mean, look, this is a snoozer of an election, but when we have a chance to cover politics and take a look at the great differences between candidates, why not? And as I'm sitting here looking at and listening to this last night at 580-5436, 580-KID, I'm thinking to myself, there are a lot of things that people are not bringing out about Paulette Jordan. And I mean, she's a very easy target. She just speaks of things and doesn't back them up with facts. You know, the fact that she's going to make Idaho better. Well, what's your plan? I have one. Okay, what is it? I have one. Okay, that the system is corrupt. Well, how is it? Well, we have one healthcare system, and my plan would save us $100 million. How would you do it? Yes, it would. So, there were two moments in the debate. One, and by the way, no one has asked Paulette Jordan what has been her profession, her life experience before deciding to run for governor. Number two, no one has asked her how would she work with the Republican legislature, who she has vilified since running for office. Where is her example of bipartisanship? You have that with Brad Little, with the lieutenant governor. So last night in the debate, it got a little heated. Let's take a listen.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Betsy. I want to say that
And I always notice when the lieutenant governor tried to get a word in, that's enough, we're moving on. Oh, Paulette, you have something to say? Go ahead, Paulette.
you know, even though I just want to make sure that our viewers are not continuing to be misled, because you've had 9 years to make any kind of difference whatsoever, but you continue to fail our public good. And in fact, it's too little too late when it comes to your plan that we're speaking of. Now, when it comes to this plan, I'm wondering, why has this not been done before? Why have you not taken any action? My kids could have benefited, in fact, if that were the case, but it's taken this long.
Right. They're talking about education. Now, remember, the governor, lieutenant governor, the Senate, the House got us through one of the worst economic crises of the country. We went from whooped, no money in the rainy day fund, to ghetto fabulous right now. So I love how the state representative, soon to be former state representative, says, my kids could have benefited. I could have benefited. Everybody's a victim. Everybody's entitled. And not speaking to the conservative millennials, she sounds like an entitled liberal millennial.
9 years.
Perhaps you'll get into a position where you'll understand the role between the lieutenant governor and the governor.
Ouch. Perhaps you'll one day have the life experience to actually know what you're talking about, Paulette.
No, that's not the case. Well, you have a leadership position. You know, people elect you to be a lieutenant governor. So, in any case, I want to make sure that our listeners understand that you have not taken action. So there's a lot of overpromising, which is what we have too much of. In fact, when I grew up in the state, I heard only promises and zero action.
I'm proud of the fact that we lead the nation in increase in funding for school teachers. I'm proud of the fact.
How so? Given to the rest of the country.
He just said that, and it's funny. The moderator, Melissa Davlin, I know her mom listens. I'm sorry, Melissa Davlin's mom. She lost control of this. Now, Melissa, a very astute, award-winning journalist, she let these two go at it, and maybe that was her intent. And then she'll jump in occasionally. That's the great thing about being on radio. Everybody's a critic. Everybody's a backseat driver. Let's continue on.
We're still 50th. We're still last.
We are not 50th. We are not last.
Rate of increase, even though you think that we're trying to get ahead, we may have gotten 2 steps ahead, but we're still at the end of
We are not last
in
in teacher pay. We are not last. We lead every state around us in our ACT scores. What matters is...
We're not first. We're not at the top. We're at the very end.
You know, she reminds me of Liberal Steve. She makes a point. Brad Little comes back and answers the question specifically with facts. And maybe it's the out-of-state consultants that have told Madam Jordan to do this. But Brad Little is handling her, and so we're not first? Well, you just said we're last. Huh.
We've got some places that we've got a lot of work to do.
Oh, we have a lot of work to do, but we need
and
new
I'm
work
telling
under a
you
new
that
administration.
I'm proud of what progress has taken place. There's a reason
proud to
that
be
the
last?
9,000 school teachers in
Last
Idaho
in
are
dang near
supporting
everything?
my campaign.
He's got a good point there. The teachers are supporting Brad Little. Now, look, with all due respect to what we do here on KIDO Talk Radio, this sounds more like a talk show where she's grilling him. Now, maybe this is good theater. And by the way, this was the highlight of the debate last night. I feel bad even talking about it. Sure, we could talk about the president going to Elko, Nevada, how we want the president to come here, more on Pocahontas when we're talking about Elizabeth Warren. But this is really the leadership of the state of Idaho. And maybe this is a giant audition for Paulette Jordan 4 years from now to have a serious effort. But anybody listening can tell one person knows the issues and one person is, well, with all due respect to Kevin Miller, pulling a Kevin Miller.
We will surely fact check these. Betsy has one last question before we move on.
On early childhood education, what is...
Betsy always has one last question. So that was the big significant point of the debate last night at 580-5436. Not very impressive. However, there was someone from the Idaho Statesman. Her name, Cynthia Sewell. If you've ever read her work, it's very thorough, very up-to-date, and Paulette Jordan did not like the direct questions. Now, she liked the questions from Betsy Russell. She did like the questions from Betsy Russell because I don't know, but Betsy and her seem to have a better understanding of the issues. But Cynthia Sewell pretty much laid it out and saying, look, Representative Jordan, you're discussing this issue concerning transparency and openness and everything else. So what about these folks that have left your campaign? What about this guy from Wyoming? What about these other people? Do we have that? By the way, you're listening to 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. Well worth the answer here. Play the music.
For Lieutenant Governor Little.
Yes. Representative Jordan, good evening. During the debate last week, you said there is a lack of transparency in state politics. Within the last 2 months, your campaign paid a total of $30,000 to 2 Wyoming companies. One is owned by your campaign manager, who's a California attorney. The other company was recently registered anonymously with the Wyoming Secretary of State, and it has the same address as the federal super PAC that you and your campaign manager advised on. My questions: who owns Roughneck Steering, this newly created anonymous company? Why did you pay it $20,000? And as someone who is campaigning on transparency, why is your campaign associated with such shadowy out-of-state companies?
Well, first of all, thank you, Cynthia, for your great question. I ultimately believe in transparency, and like in the State House, I really walk my talk. I was one who firmly supported that we have more transparency when...
Now, by the way, listen to her answer. This is courtesy of Idaho Public Television. Listen to Paulette Jordan's answer.
It comes to financial interest in the money that we take in, which is why every single question that you've asked
Hate it when that happens.
me, I have given you the information, including my own income taxes. I fully believe in transparency, and it's why I even supported and have asked my treasurer, Senator John Peavy, to represent this campaign because he is the godfather of the Sunshine Law. And answering your question, which is actually great, I will reply that honestly, everything that we have, all of the reports, the contracts, everything has been above ground, and it's as reported, and it's already been filed. So everyone is allowed to gather that information, just like you have.
Okay, but specifically, my questions were...
And we'll get back to that in a minute. So Paulette Jordan speaks in these general terms. Cynthia Sewell on Idaho Public Television from the Idaho Statesman. Great reporter, just does her job, no self-promotion. Is she just pleased with that answer? at 580-5436, 580-KIDO.
Who owns Roughneck Steering? And these are questions I have asked of you and your staff and campaign and have not been answered.
There we have it. Who owns Roughneck Steering? Who owns this, that, and the other? I've just asked you the question, Representative Jordan. You didn't answer it, so I'm going to ask it again.
So specifically, I'll repeat again, who owns Roughneck Steering, this newly created company? Why did you pay it $20,000 just a few days after it was created? And why is your campaign associating with these two shadowy out-of-state companies that have been registered anonymously with the Wyoming Secretary of State as opposed to being registered and formed as Idaho companies?
Well, again, thank you, Cynthia, because we did have a very long conversation about this prior to this event. We've submitted a press statement to you and as many others who have asked this question. So you do have all the facts and figures before you, but you're asking it here again. So same follow-up to you is that these are same contractors for the campaign who are helping with information.
Well,
as we're getting out the vote, which is a simple process, which is what supporters of the campaign are contributing to the campaign for, which is getting more people to the doors, knocking not only on the doors in the communities, but making...
Okay. And this might be a little too inside baseball, but look, this is the governor's election, and it's a very important election. And you have someone who has defeated the Democratic candidate, the previous Democratic nominee, A.J. Belukoff, right? A.J. Belukoff. So, Cynthia Sewell from the Idaho Statesman, who owns this consulting company? Paulette Jordan doesn't give any answers. Who owns, and why is it registered in Wyoming as opposed to Idaho? No answer. We've issued a press release. I believe that if they had answered the question, Cynthia Sewell would have moved on. But that, people malign journalists, and look, I'm right up there. But that is an example of a seasoned journalist asking a non-agenda question that really makes a big difference. Does it matter that there's tons of out-of-state money coming in from Wyoming, from this shadowy group? And she didn't defend that term when the reporter called it shadowy. It is shadowy. Why is it registered in Wyoming? Who is behind your campaign? She refuses to answer the questions. For some people that are in love with the concept of Paulette Jordan winning the governorship, this is a good thing. But if you have seen their interactions, one person is prepared, seasoned experience, and you heard the lieutenant governor say, maybe you'll one day understand the difference between the lieutenant governor and the governor. It's as if somebody gave her a Democratic playbook and said, here, go at it. It doesn't make sense. And that's why I think, and a lot of the Republicans disagree with me, seeing I'm overconfident, I think Brad Little could pull 70% of the vote. At 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Where's the motivation? Clearly, Mrs. Jordan, is not prepared to be the next governor of Idaho. So much so that all you're seeing with the Little campaign is positive. There's no need to go negative. And remember, that campaign, we will go back and write about that for years between Little, Alquist, and Labrador. This one, it's kind of like a great football team or basketball team. The practices are tougher than the games. So, by the way, props to Idaho Public Television for putting on that debate last night. I wish that it had been 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. I don't know how big the viewership was, probably not much. But you didn't have to watch it because we gave you the highlights there. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. I think it's going to be 70-30. Your thoughts on the governor's race next with me, Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.
The thing I've really learned is I never knew how dishonest the media was. I really mean it. I'm not saying that as a soundbite, I never knew how dishonest.
I'm going to change the subject again.
Well, no, but even the way you asked me a question, like about separation.
Yeah.
When I say Obama did it, you don't want to talk about it.
No.
When I say I did it, let's make a big deal.
I'm going to run your answer, but you did it 4 times.
I'm just telling you that you treated me much differently on the subject.
I disagree, but I don't want to have that fight with you.
Hey,
all right,
it's
we're going to
okay.
have another fight with you.
Leslie, it's okay. In the meantime, I'm president and you're not.
Liberal Steve returns on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. That was a great debate. Paulette Jordan won it totally, hands down. And it's obvious, and it's been well known what Paulette Jordan has done for a living all her life. She's been a rancher and involved in timber. Brad Little was a rancher, but I don't think he was ever involved in the timber industry. So there, your question's answered on what she did.
I didn't know you were. I didn't know you were her official spokesperson.
What's your next question, Miller? You had questions about her. What else do you want to know?
Look, she's woefully underqualified.
What makes her underqualified, Kevin? She's a
unlike Paulette Jordan. Unlike Paulette Jordan, I will answer.
What makes her underqualified?
Can I answer your question?
Okay, answer it.
Unlike Paulette Jordan, I'll give you specifics. She's vague on all these promises. She called Brad Little her predecessor. Brad Little's not her predecessor.
You're dancing around the answer.
She doesn't know. She doesn't know the topics.
What makes her?
She has no plan. She's not disclosing her information. And by the way, again, I don't know her life experience. I know she's 38 and thinks she can run the government.
She has no plan. She had a complete debate and talked about
right.
Her
plan is she's going to make a lot of promises with specifically how are you going to work with a supermajority Republican legislature since you're a progressive liberal? How are you going to? What's your example of bipartisanship? She never gave one. She doesn't have a plan.
Paul, she's got the best plan that's
right,
ever been
and that's the deal with her. You want her. No, you want her to legal. You want the reason why you like her is because she wants to legalize marijuana.
Do you want Kevin Miller? Would you want to know why? She wants livable wage. She wants local control of all government. She wants government of and by and for the people, as government should be. She wants affordable health care. She wants education for our future to be right. She wants thriving main streets, as Governor Paulette Jordan will revitalize our economy, Miller. So you keep going on and spouting this and that. She won in District 5, which is totally Republican. So the people out here...
Where does she live?
I can't answer that question where she lives right now.
Does she live in the North End or does she live in her home district? Because I didn't think you could have two homes.
I imagine she lives in her home district of Coeur d'Alene, since she's not lieutenant governor.
According to her, she lives in the North End.
Okay.
You really should know your facts about your candidate before you come on the air.
Well, Kevin, what's it matter where she lives?
I just want to know where she lives. Apparently, she's more of an Idahoan than the rest of us, because she openly tells us that. That's really inclusive. That's building a big tent.
You know, Kevin, that Idaho's elected officials have failed to implement any effective check on government and corporations or anything, and pharmaceutical companies.
All I know is that we're the fastest growing state in the nation. The livable wage is increasing at record rates. That's not hyperbole. That's fact. And we've gone from a horrible economy to one of the best in the nation.
Well, welcome to America. That's what happens after a decade-long, terrible, terrible depression. We turn it completely around and we move to be the best there is. So I don't understand why you don't understand that she'll be the best governor that Idaho has ever had.
Not this time.
Well, thank you for your time, Miller. Have a good day.
Thank you. A little upset liberal Steve. It took bashing Paulette Jordan for him to come back. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. By the way, thank you to our researcher, Greg. District 5 is a swing district. It's always changing. Let's go. Max, can you hang on?
Sure I can.
All right. Max is fired up. We will talk to him next. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. That's 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Good morning, Maggie.
Good morning, Kevin.
In retrospect, do you think Bill should have resigned in the wake of the Monica Lewinsky scandal?
Absolutely not.
It wasn't an abuse of power?
No.
There are people who look at the incidents of the 90s and they say a president of the United States cannot have a consensual relationship with an intern. The power imbalance is too great.
Who was an adult.
There we have it. Hillary Clinton defending Bill Clinton from Good Morning America, although that sounds like Jake Tapper. More on that in a minute. We'll hear from Max in Garden City, your comments on the gubernatorial race, and we'll get into the debate over Prop 1, maybe even Prop 2, or if we're really bored and looking for adventure excitement, how about the idea of whether or not you should get your flu shot? We always debate that every year. The idea of immunizing your kids. Apparently there's some bad news about the growing lack of immunization here in the state of Idaho. Is that a good thing? More on that in a minute. Simon Owen joins us now, Fox News Radio on KIDO Talk Radio. Simon, good morning.
Good morning, Kevin.
Well, the drama continues concerning what happened to that reporter, Mike Pompeo, now in Saudi Arabia, trying to figure out what's next. And you've got Turkey inspecting the Saudi consulate. This is a lot of drama. What's the latest, sir?
Yeah, and it's a fast-moving situation. 2 weeks to the day since Jamal Khashoggi was last seen entering the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, Turkey, and he hasn't been seen since. The claim from Turkish officials is that he was killed. The Saudis say those allegations are lies. To bring you right up to date, Secretary of State Pompeo is in Saudi Arabia. He's been meeting with the Saudi king and the crown prince. This was a trip that was only announced yesterday, so a last-minute effort. In President Trump's words, he was sent to find answers. And Pompeo has thanked the Saudi king, the State Department says, for his commitment to investigate this situation. Now, Jamal Khashoggi's family is calling for an independent, impartial, international investigation, which sounds to me like they wouldn't be happy with essentially the Saudis investigating themselves. But there is this process now of what happens. Does anybody produce any evidence that proves that Jamal Khashoggi was indeed killed at the consulate? And if that happens, what does the Trump administration do?
Indeed. Of course, you've got two allies of the U.S., the Turks and the Saudis.
Yes, and one of them is a NATO ally, Turkey, and that might potentially count for something. Equally, Turkey is where this happened. It's not necessarily a particularly key player in this situation. This is something that happened on what is legally Saudi territory. The consulates and embassies have special legal protection as diplomatic sites. But there is a question, I think, about how hard does Turkey push this. It's a country that also has a pretty patchy record when it comes to silencing dissenting voices. So do they make a big thing out of this? Certainly, at the moment, Turkish officials have been leaking all sorts of information, supposedly pointing in the direction of Saudi complicity. But equally, Turkey has not said any of this on the record. There's been no official allegation from the Turks as to what the Saudis are suspected of doing. And we don't know why they might be doing that. There's been a suggestion it's perhaps to protect intelligence gathering methods, or is it something a little more cynical to do with holding some political capital over the Saudis? But 2 weeks since it happened, yesterday, Turkish police went into the consulate and did a search, and we wait to hear what they found on those efforts. And there are reports beginning to emerge from Istanbul that actually they did find some evidence that suggests Jamal Khashoggi was killed there, but we wait to hear what that might be.
Simon, how unusual is it that the Saudis would allow the Turks into their embassy to do this forensic investigation?
Yeah, it's very unusual because they don't, I suppose, have to do it. I mean, it's an unusual situation, period, but they don't have to do it. But equally, it's the sort of thing that if you want to show willing, if you say that you are determined to get to the bottom of this, which the Saudis say they are, then you've got to let people in there. And there have been these reports in the past 24 hours or so that actually the Saudis are about to admit that Jamal Khashoggi did indeed die in the consulate, even though they've spent the past 2 weeks saying that that didn't happen. President Trump has said he spoke with the Saudi king, and President Trump floated the idea that rogue killers, in his words, may be responsible. So it may be that the Saudis are preparing to come out with some kind of statement that, yes, he did die, but it was an accident. But, there are many holes in that story. Firstly, why did you spend 2 weeks saying that he didn't die there? Secondly, does anything really happen in Saudi Arabia notable without the King or Crown Prince's approval? I think that's a reasonable question to ask. And thirdly, Turkish officials have said that shortly before Jamal Khashoggi entered the consulate, a few hours before, a Saudi assassination squad flew into Turkey, including someone with a bone saw and someone who is an autopsy expert. And if you are just going to interrogate someone, which is what they're supposedly going to say, you don't bring those kind of people in beforehand. But the suggestion is that this is where the Saudis might go with this. Say it was a botched interrogation, and the question for President Trump would then be, is he willing to accept that explanation?
Very chilling. It sounds more fiction than fact, but to be determined. Simon, thank you for keeping us on top of the story.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, Simon Owen from Fox News Radio. Let's go to Max in Garden City. Max, thank you for your patience. Good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Oh, good morning. It is a wonderful morning. I am so happy to hear Liberal Steve back on the air. I really am. Steve, I'm really happy you're back, but you really need to get your stuff together before you go one-on-one with Kevin Miller or myself. Remember, Steve, when you go into battle, it's generally a good idea to have bullets in your gun. Paulette Jordan, if you're listening, you need to heed the same advice, young lady. Never bring a knife to a gunfight. I didn't hear any substance. It's nice that when Steve came on, he came on with a lot less attitude. He tried very hard to make points with nothing, but at least he was trying. He didn't insult you. This is great. Maybe he just got out of the methadone clinic. I don't know. But it's terrific. It's terrific. And this quick shift to Hillary Clinton, they couldn't have tossed softer questions. This wasn't even a pillow fight. And she failed to defend her serial rapist husband, Bill Clinton.
Max, back to Paulette Jordan as a doctor, as a student of history, as a teacher, as a medical professional, as a best-selling author. What's her deal? She makes these statements that make no sense. It's like a bad Saturday Night Live parody where she goes, "We're 50th. You like being 50?" And then she'll refer to Brad Little as the predecessor, and you're going, well, no, that's not the correct term for him. And she seems like someone who was given a book on how to run for office, and I don't even know if these are her original thoughts.
Well, I'll be honest. Look at her face. Look at the body language. Listen as she speaks. This is a woman she's vacuous. She has pretty much no idea of what's going on. She's been spoon-fed a number of talking points, and she stays on the talking point, even if it makes no sense. What gets me is how she shifts in mid-speech. Now, I'm not a psychologist. I don't claim to be. But if you watch her body language, the entire time she is evasive. She's avoiding a direct confrontation. She doesn't want to confuse the issues with the truth. This woman is a plant. If she ever makes governor, this will not be the state of Idaho. This will become the state of indecision. But luckily, we do have people with higher than double-digit IQs. We have people who care about their country. We have people who love the United States of America so dearly and Idaho so much. My new adopted home, Idaho. These people will not allow her to take office because they're going to go to the polls and they're going to vote. And they're going to vote for Mr. Little.
Max, we appreciate the phone call. Thank you.
Thank you.
580-5436, 580-KIDO. So there was a big debate last night between Paulette Jordan and Brad Little, Idaho Public Television. Cynthia Sewell, we played the clips earlier, asked her specifically her sources for her campaign funds, where the money has gone to some places registered in Wyoming. Why not Idaho? Ms. Jordan refused to answer the questions. You had her going after Brad Little about education. And as Brad Little pointed out, Lieutenant Governor, 62% of the general fund goes to education? And then you had the waffling on Prop 1, the embracing of Prop 2. And like I said, it's going to be 70% Brad Little. It's going to be a wipeout. And you're going to have people wondering what happened. I think she's running for 4 years from now. That's what I think. And whether it was the lieutenant governor who won the race squarely and fairly and earned it, or any of the other Republican candidates, this would not be a close race. And it's not a close race. You take a look at the media buys versus the primary media buys, and it's non-existent. But clearly, I believe that the state representative lacks the proper experience, the proper way to articulate things, and I think people are just being nice to her and not telling it like it is. We tell it like it is. Look, I self-report on myself all the time. It's not going to be a pretty election. Not going to be a pretty election for the folks down the ballot on the Dems either. Really, I think that we should just call it and just move on to Miller's mission for the Boise Rescue Mission and all dress up as turkeys and give away turkeys. It's better to give a turkey than be a turkey. That's how non-close this election is going to be. You know, when in the past, when you had A.J. Belukoff versus Butch Otter, there was passion for A.J. Belukoff. Now, maybe some of the kids that paint their hair pink, I'm not making this up. Maybe some of the people that, sit back and do their own thing and, think that Idaho is bad. But there is no Jordan plan to fix things. All she can do is say, well, we're 50th. Never mind, you have growing incomes. Never mind that you have everything else. And they talked a little bit about transportation. Well, what's your plan specifically? You don't have one. And I think that just plays to the conservative field here in the state of Idaho. Plus, and no one asked this, maybe they had other questions to ask, how in the world can a Democratic governor govern in a supermajority Republican House and Senate? It's just not going to happen unless you're someone like a Bill Clinton. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Ray Amai, for putting that together. That was Paulette Jordan's compilation of her statements last night on Idaho Public Television. Kevin Miller with you, taking your calls about the governor's race. We'll get back to that in a minute. But here's something that that really begs the question of Hillary Clinton, since we're talking about two female candidates, both wearing pantsuits all the time. I thought we'd bring in Hillary Clinton to go along with our Paulette Jordan talk.
In retrospect, do you think Bill should have resigned in the wake of the Monica Lewinsky scandal?
Absolutely not.
It wasn't an abuse of power?
No.
There are people who look at the incidents of the 90s and they say a president of the United States cannot have a consensual relationship with an intern. The power imbalance is too great.
Who was an adult.
And there we have it. Hillary Clinton defending Bill Clinton. Oh, she must be proud. Now compare that and contrast that to Justice Kavanaugh, who Hillary Clinton said should step down. By the way, if you're coming in from Canyon County and you're going 84 East, you should probably seek alternate routes. I'm looking at the Garrity exit right now. It is backed up because you've got the left lanes blocked on eastbound 84 due to a truck overturning around Eagle Road, Locust Grove, Eagle Road exit. So what you need to do is go an alternate route, whether it's Franklin, whether it's Cherry Lane, whether it's take the morning off. I can see the traffic right now. It is bad. The left lanes on 84 East are tough. So we'll have traffic with Dave in a minute. But back to this issue involving the Me Too movement, and men should sit down and shut up. So Senator Hirono of Hawaii and the people that vilified Justice Kavanaugh, what would they say to Hillary Clinton? Now, Monica Lewinsky is somebody's daughter. Someday, Monica Lewinsky will probably get married and have a family. Someday, Monica Lewinsky may be a mom. And when you're a parent, when you're a grandparent, when you're a responsible adult, you don't do those things. You know, whether it's Harvey Weinstein, whether it's Les Moonves. You know, the Me Too movement, where men are guilty until proven innocent, with the exception of Bill Clinton. And you got to give Steve Bannon this for inviting Juanita Broaddrick, Paula Jones, Kathleen Willey, all these people to the debates. And it made a statement. But Hillary Clinton saying this, it shows you the sheer looniness of the left when it comes to protecting their own.
In retrospect, do you think Bill should have resigned in the wake of the Monica Lewinsky scandal?
Absolutely not.
It wasn't an abuse of power?
No. There
are people who look...
So you're telling me, and Clinton was what, in his 50s? And Monica Lewinsky was in her early 20s? In fact, she was older than his daughter or his daughter's age? You can't tell me that the imbalance of power, that imbalance of life experience? What major corporation, what minor corporation would tolerate that experience today?
At the incidents of the 90s, and they say a president of the United States cannot have a consensual relationship with an intern. The power imbalance is too great.
Who was an adult.
Not even an employee, but an intern. And this person was so close to being the president of the United States. Hillary Clinton. Prayers that weren't answered for the libs. Traffic and weather together. Kevin Miller in the morning.
Senator Warren released some of her DNA results that show a strong likelihood that she does have Native American roots.
How much? 1,000?
Do you owe her an apology?
No, I don't.
What about the money that
I owe her. She owes the country an apology. What's the percentage? 1,000?
I don't have the exact numbers.
Okay, tell me, when you have the percentage, tell me what the percentage is.
What about the money that you told her you would...
you mean if she gets the nomination in a debate where I was going to have her tested? I'll only do it if I can test her personally. Okay, that will not be something I enjoy doing either.
You know, they try so hard, and the press has really become Charlie Brown, and the president is Lucy, and he keeps moving the football, and they keep falling for it. Crazy times. By the way, speaking of crazy, this week the professional bull riders, they are in the Treasure Valley at the Ford Idaho Center in beautiful, majestic Nampa, Idaho. Very easy. Love the Ford Idaho Center. Your chance to win tickets coming up this week with me, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And by the way, Thursday, if you're in Meridian or if you're in Nampa, on your way in, stop by Ed's 50s Cafe, the Meridian Road exit. We're going to be there. Our annual pilgrimage. Hopefully it's a biannual pilgrimage. We're right now an annual pilgrimage to Ed's 50s Cafe. We celebrate everything West as we give away tickets to the PBR. Take your calls, hang out with our friends in Meridian. That is this Thursday. We look forward to being at Ed's 50s Cafe. Details at KIDOTalkRadio.com. We're just getting started. Thank you for joining us. Kevin Miller, 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.